Yeah. Yeah, baby.
Good morning, everybody. Morning. Welcome to our Wednesday meeting. We do have prize service bucket fills. Who has something good going on?
It's yours.
I'll fill Kimberly and Amy Black's buckets for hosting open houses for us last weekend.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I'm gonna fill my fiance's bucket. We have been talking about having kids, and believe it or not, that 2 weeks ago. Her daughter had a friend that needed a place to live. She was in foster home that got divorced sadly.
And now I'm not. She's a delight. She's very, very sweet and just happy.
Oh.
That's great. How old is she?
Interesting, she's a senior in high school, but she turned 18, so that's kind of.
We'll be at Bridget. Tomorrow, ask the broker. So new forms are coming out. I'm sure you received a ton of emails. I have too. So tomorrow, Kevin's gonna be here to talk about the new forms. So we're not gonna really go over anything today. Save those questions, join in person or on Zoom tomorrow at 11.
And that's, if you want to see and hear about the new forms, you'll want to be there.
And then next Tuesday, if you're like me and you see their social media posts where they like invite you into the homes and they tour you around and they're telling you all of the highlights and stuff. They are going to share with us how they kind of their methods of putting that together and how they do it. And so that training is going to be on next Tuesday, the 6th.
I always love their, come on in.
I know.
I know. Did you hear that? John saying, come on in.
And then this, I did also put on our Facebook group this morning. It's kind of weird because they're in East Coast and West Coast time, so I did put down here what times they are. But Ignite After Dark is coming to us, and it's actually being taught by a bunch of different people around the nation. So it's not just specific to our market center. So you're gonna get takeaways from a bunch of different people. So it's really cool. It's free to sign up and join. And so when you click on the registration, all of the dates will come up too. And on the Facebook page, if you go on there, the links are in the comments for each time. And then when you click on that link, you'll see what they're going over on each day too. So definitely check that out if you're interested. And maybe you've done Ignite before, but want a refresher, or you're like, ooh, that course sounds neat. I want to sign up for the whole thing so I can make it to that one. Make sure you can jump in there. And that starts on the 6th as well, so next Tuesday. And now we're so excited, Bethany. Thank you so much for volunteering your time and to come and do the mock fire solar consultation.
Yay.
There's some faces in the room I don't know. So, my name is Bethany. I have been with Keller Williams. I often say I grew up with Keller Williams. I joined KW when I was 22. Looked like I was 16. And now I am 35 and wouldn't be anywhere else. And I appreciate these two gentlemen being my mock clients. I got to tell you the reason I picked them. Well, does anyone have any guesses on why I picked them? They will challenge me. Yes, I will tell you, I was feeling pretty good about this until last night, and then my tummy started to get a little. And I was like, all right, so we're just gonna go for it today. So, I have never done a buyer and seller consult as quickly as I'm gonna try to go through them today. So there are going to be parts of the consult that I'm just gonna give you an idea of what I do, but we're not actually gonna go through it. So example, I'm not going through comparables today because we don't have a real property that we're gonna be going through. So question I have that I really want your feedback on is there a side that everyone is more nervous about? Like my guess would be buyer side. So we'll probably spend more time there, but is that the right vibe? Like, are you more intimidated or curious about asking your buyers to pay you buyer compensation, or is it more the seller side? And yeah, Maureen.
I was gonna say, well, I've been seeing a lot of videos coming out from EXP. I don't know if you guys have seen these, and what EXP is advising their agents to do now is to not get buy-side commission when they sign a listing contract, and to have that only negotiated in the purchase agreement. And I thought, how are we going to compete with EXP agents going and trying to get listing if they're going to the listing appointment and they're saying, you're absolutely right, you don't have, we encourage you to pay buy side, but you don't have to do that in your listing agreement. We'll sign here at 3.3 and we'll deal with that when offers come in.
We're gonna handle that. What I will say really quick though is I don't want to call out any specific brokerages, and I'm gonna use percentages today, and these are mine. These are not the brokerages. This is not what anyone's telling you to do. So like want to make that disclosure like super clear. And then as far as, I just want to start with this. I truly believe, I said this last week, I actually truly believe that this is the time to separate ourselves from other people. And I'm excited about it. We recently signed a listing on our team where Kimberly was competing with another brokerage, and they were like so gung-ho about communicating their value being the brokerage. And actually by talking about that NAR lawsuit and saying like, we actually want to expose your home to all brokerages and talk about the payout, we signed the list. Like that actually converted her. So being really good at explaining this and explaining your value, the value to them is what's gonna be really important. So we're gonna start with the buy side. You guys don't have to pretend to be a couple. I don't care how you.
I know it's never been.
I appreciate you kind of color coordinated this. I do appreciate it.
Under the shoes.
All right, let's focus. Here we go. Okay, so we're gonna do the buy side first. Rick, Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me about your home buying goals. I really appreciate you driving into the office, and I know you've already connected with our preferred lender. Sidebar, I do not meet with buyers, they're pre-approved. Okay? Reason is, let's pretend one of them calls me and they say, hey Bethany, I got your number from my friend Maureen. I want to buy a house. Awesome. Have you been pre-approved is literally my first question. No, we haven't done that first. We want to meet with you. Awesome. That chances are that you are going to have questions about what you can afford in what neighborhood and what to expect. I won't be able to answer those questions until you're pre-approved. So to make the best use of your time, I'm going to ask that you get that done. I have multiple lenders I recommend if you would like some recommendations. And then we can sit down. We're going to look at what properties are available in the areas that you're interested in, get you set up on a search and start aggressively looking for the home that you're interested in. Does that sound good to you? I never get pushback. And I immediately send off my lender email, which is a template in my email with the application link. I do not wait for the lender to send that. Like, I go, here's the application, get it signed or get it filled out. If you have questions, respond all to this email and my lender will respond to you. So I do not sit down with buyers unless they are pre-approved. So Scott, Rick, I'd love to start off with just learning more about what you guys are looking for. So can you share with me, Scott, maybe first, like what's important to this next? Just stay consistent and don't don't be the like Mr. Difficult buyer. Perfect. I mean, I feel like we're all loud people.
Yeah.
Quiet. That's quiet.
I think, we ideally, I'd be right around that $1 million mark. But, with, the sale of the home currently and what our needs are that we want to be in, I think $1 million we're comfortable with. Down payment that we have set aside for that.
And what kind of payment are you looking?
Yeah, I'd say with down payment, we're all in at probably about $42 million.
Okay, awesome. And when you say down payment, how much are you spending on it?
We'll probably have $1,800 of them.
Do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I believe you asked like what's important in the new house. And what's most important to me is that we get some privacy. I grew up on a lake, with a bunch of nature behind. So that's really important to me. So we entertain a lot. So it's one of those things where nice to have a big kitchen. He cooks. And so.
And you clean?
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely. But it's nice to have a big kitchen, open, have an open floor plan on the main floor for sure, is important. So.
Okay, great. Have you guys seen any properties on the market as you've been, Zillow talking at night in bed? Have you seen any properties that you've been interested in?
In bed.
I don't think your mic is on.
And we have some things that we like, and obviously some of the things that come out pretty fast, not on the market. But nothing that we've been through.
Awesome. I probably would dig into this more, but I'm not going to do it for the sake of time. So then I'd go into, so Scott, Rick, I have some goals for our meeting tonight. I want to make sure I understand completely what you're looking for, which I believe I have a pretty good grasp at. We're going to look at some properties online together. Then want to know, I have some goals for what I want to make sure you leave this meeting with. What is important to you about this meeting that we're done in an hour for you to say, that was worth my time. I understand the value of Bethany and her team. Like, what are you looking for this evening?
I can tell you the first thing at this price point, we're going to be pretty particular about working with someone who has experience, and we want to be working with you. We met with another team and they said, yeah, it's not me, you're gonna be working with somebody else. And so that was a little bit disconcerting because we thought we were getting that gentleman as
Sure.
the person who was gonna be out there looking at houses with us. Also, I mean, we bought and sold a number of properties, so we want somebody who's gonna respect that we've got an opinion. We'll obviously get advice from you, but we're pretty strong-minded, so we just need to know that that'll work as well. We really don't want to be in a position where you just send us a bunch of listings and they don't fit. I'd
Totally.
like to do some research. We're busy,
Yep.
and want to make sure it's efficient.
Right, awesome. Anything you have to add to that, Scott?
Okay.
Okay, great. So what I'd like to do first is I'm going to put this packet in front of you. For the sake of everybody else, I'm going to load it up here. I'm going to put this packet in front of you, and because you have purchased real estate before, we're not going to go through every page because this packet is the same packet we use for a first-time home buyer and also our luxury clients. So when we're talking about purchasing a home in today's market, there's multiple things that we're going to focus on. But first of all, you guys have bought and sold enough real estate that you know that real estate is actually the best and most important financial decision that people make. That's a responsibility that we don't take lightly. One thing that you're going to experience as we tour homes together, and you will be touring homes with me personally, is that I'm going to point out the things that the seller has done to the home that are going to increase its value, or things that you could do to the home to increase the value while you're living there before you decide to upgrade your home again in the next 3 to 5 years. We're also going to be pointing out things that could be wrong with the home, because I don't want you to get under contract on a house. You're busy people, spend the money and invest in a home inspection only for a home inspector to tell you the things that I should have pointed out to you. So with my background in being in real estate for 13 years, flipping my own homes, having investment property, I'm going to walk through the home, not pointing out, here's the kitchen and here's the bathroom. You know that. I'm going to be telling you, hey, these windows, they definitely look original and there's broken seals. We're going to be commenting on, looks like the sheetrock in the ceiling. There's a seam that's starting to become loose and it happens to be under a bathroom. You might want to pay attention to that. So just for what you can expect for showings, and paying attention and protecting value in your home. Sidebar, if they're a first-time home buyer, we have this page that talks about the value of home ownership, because we do run into first-time home buyers that are stuck on, oh my gosh, real estate's so expensive, interest rates, etc. Because they're experienced, I'm not going to go, and they're not buying their first home, I'm not going to go through this with them. So
Hey,
Who-
Bethany?
Yeah.
Do you have those out of your packet when you're meeting with either a luxury or a?
I don't, because it's a professionally printed booklet.
Right.
That's why I always tell them, like, we're not going to go through every page.
Skip over it.
And I find that the more professional your packets and the things that you bring with you, the less questions they ask. So if you want to go along, this is the buyer one. That's the seller one. Okay. So you have secured your financing. Thank you for getting that done. Do you have any additional questions on the financing? We talked about your down payment, your ideal monthly payment. Any additional questions on that? Okay. Has anyone talked to you before about non-refundable earnest money? Okay, great. So you guys are purchasing. One thing to consider as a buyer is for you to be aggressive, because as you mentioned, as you've been looking at properties, you see that in this price point, if they're a great home and they're priced correctly, they're going to move quickly. So we're going to talk about today a couple of things that are going to make you stand out. Don't always involve you paying a higher dollar amount. I don't know about you, but if I can save money and make my purchase less for doing things that I feel comfortable with and showing the seller that I'm a serious buyer, I'd like to do that. So I mentioned that we're going to be walking through the property and doing kind of our own visual inspection. The second piece is if you want to do a formal home inspection, we're going to want to make that contingency as short as possible, because the biggest fear a seller has is that you as a buyer are going to walk away from the transaction. Does that make sense to you? Awesome. Has anyone talked to you about radon or sewer scopes before?
Radon, we know, there's a radon.
Mitigation
Yeah.
system in it?
Yeah.
Awesome. So those are gonna be things, sidebar, I'm gonna go further into that normally in an appointment, but these are things I'm pointing out in advance on, do you want to do this or you don't? The goal in the buyer consultation is by the time that we're writing an offer, literally I can ask them 6 bullet pointed questions. Sales price, earnest money. I should already know their down payment. Are they doing the home inspection or are they doing the additional add-ons? So that I want to build confidence in them here so that when I'm actually writing an offer, I'm not spending a ton of time on that.
Just a quick question along those lines. Do you have a recommended inspector that you work with consistently that you can trust? Because we've
Absolutely.
had mixed, results with that.
Yeah, the tricky part with home inspectors is they're actually really not regulated by anyone. So we do have home inspectors that we trust that have availability. So before we ever write an offer, let's say you're interested in a property, before we would ever write the offer, there are some things that I'm going to strategically do. One, I'm going to call the listing agent. Now, by the way, I would have already called them before we did our showing to make sure there weren't any offers so we could have that conversation in the house. Afterwards, I'm going to share with them that you're interested and you're motivated. I'm going to confirm no other offers have come in the meantime, ask what the seller's preferred closing date is, and if there are any other terms that are important to them that we can then go discuss. I'm then going to call your lender, make sure that you have all the numbers so you feel confident in offering an aggressive sales price. And then I'm going to call my home inspector and see what their availability is, and I'm going to have them hold a time slot for you so that we can make an aggressive time framed offer to make sure that seller doesn't have any issues or concerns with that timeline. So then when I'm calling you and saying, all right, Rick and Scott, it's time to go, we can write your offer, I'm going to have all of that information ready for you. Great. Okay. So a couple of things. You've purchased a home before. A couple of things I just want to remind you, please don't go purchase a truck or go buy furniture, any of those things before closing. Now, in order for us to find the correct home, as I'm sure you've seen and experienced over the last couple of years, there's plenty of different websites where homes are displayed online. Something that's a little bit different about our real estate team is I am not the only one out connecting with other agents and prospecting for you and to find you a home. So both myself and my team with 6 other agents are constantly talking to people about if they're interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate. We're also partnered with Keller Williams, Lake Minnetonka. There are plenty of agents that sell luxury real estate in the market that you're looking in, or sometimes we get the opportunity to show you a listing that's not yet on the market. That be interesting to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It is hard. I mean, the market's tough because there's not a lot out there. I mean, we've been looking.
Yeah.
We decided not to use Zillow because it sucks.
Yeah.
But all the other sites we've been looking, and can you share with us like what percentage of properties do you do off market every year? Just so we have some
Yeah, that's a
context
really good
standpoint.
question, Rick. It's going to depend from year to year. We have had years where now our team sells around 150 homes a year. So for us, I would say probably 6 transactions a year off market. And many of those times it's through that voice to voice networking with other agents. Other thing that's a little bit different about us is because of when I got into real estate, Facebook was new at the time, which is kind of bizarre to think about now. But I created a Facebook group where there's 5,200 realtors in this group, and we all network our buyer and seller needs as well. And so we don't just keep it, some brokerages keep it internal to them. We don't just keep it internal to us. Like I am well connected, so is my team, to agents that are at every other company, because we don't believe in like competition in brokerages. We believe in collaboration to get our clients what they want. Any other questions on that piece? Great. I also, if they say like if he would have pushed harder on like finding something off market, I would have talked more about we can cold call through a specific neighborhood that he's interested in. We have door knocked. Our team also does the golden letters that Keller Williams promotes. So if he kept pushing on that, I would bring that up more. But the vibe is I answered his questions. So I'm not going to dive into this a lot either for the sake of now, because this is more educational to everyone here, but you go through like when they're deciding to write an offer, these are the things that they should be thinking about and in terms to price, which is going to be market overview, months of inventory, which I would encourage you to always know what the months of inventory are. Really easy right now because it's usually 1 or 2. But that's important in their market of what they're looking in. If they're specifically looking in luxury, looking at what are the days on market and list a sale price in that market. And then I'm pulling what we call the 555. So a lot of times buyers, agents will focus in the consultation on what they're looking for and not even look at if that's realistic. And so instead of just looking at, like if I were setting up a search with them, instead of just looking at, here are the properties that fall into the criteria that you're interested in, I'm going to be looking at actives, pendings, and solds. I have saved myself a lot of time by making sure I include solds. The reason that is because sometimes your buyers are unrealistic. It's super helpful to be able to show them, well, actually, Kimberly, nothing with your criteria has sold in the last 6 months. Would you be open to expanding criteria in these different ways? We're going to pretend that we covered that. So Rick, one thing that you had shared is that it's really important to you that you're working with me. It's really important to me that you both feel confident in that I'm going to do the most beneficial things to you, which means I'm going to be networking with agents to find off-market properties. I'm going to be showing you homes myself. We're going to be negotiating. And now I am not going to be the person that is stuck at the office pushing paperwork around and scheduling your closing and doing some of those details. So I do have a full team and a support staff that are available if you have a question. We view ourselves as a white glove service team. So Jess on our team is going to help with all of the paperwork. She's going to help with scheduling your inspection. Abby on our team is going to help with making sure you get all of this information the day of closing, the garage code, utility information you would have gotten sooner. But I want you to be clear that what's great about working with a team is that I get to focus on the things that matter and impact your purchase the most. And the rest of my team works on the things that support me so that I can give you as much attention as possible. Have any questions on like the team concept and how that works? Okay. And then going to go through with them what the buyer experience looks like from them signing an agreement with me today. So I'm kind of already pre-closing them. So once we sign the paperwork today, this is what you can expect next. I'm going to set you up on an MLS home search. I am then going to start scheduling showings with you. I will be in touch with you, if not every day, every other day with opportunities and properties that we should be looking at, etc. So I'm going to go through all of that and what they can expect to closing. I would go through, especially if they are a first-time home buyer, I would go through what is the cost to them to buy a home. Their experienced buyer. I probably should have had you be a first-time home buyer, but that's all right. They're experienced buyers, so they already know all this. So I'm not going to go through all of that with them right now. Loyalty agreement. So let's actually just jump to this. So when we sat down, I asked you what was important to you. You shared you were looking, you were looking for making sure that you're working with me. Have I answered that question? Do you have any additional concerns with that? Okay, awesome. Also mentioned that you're looking for a team that has experience. Shared that I've been doing this personally for 13 years. We sell about 150 homes a year, overseen thousands of transactions in my time in real estate. Do you have any questions or concerns about the experience level that myself and our team bring to the table?
I guess I do have one question. Obviously, it sounds like you're a busy person with a lot of sales under your belt, and I know you have a team, but I assume that probably do as much volume as anybody on the team. How many buyers are you representing at any given time? So if Thursday afternoon comes along and 6 new listings comes on, and you've got 5 buyers that want to see 8 listings tomorrow morning, do you limit yourself as to how many buyers you take at a certain time, or how is that going to work for us if we want to see a property 10 o'clock tomorrow morning?
Perfect. That's a really great question, Scott. So because I do have a team, most buyer sides, especially ones that I'm not directly associated with. So example, if someone calls one of our for sale signs or if an internet lead finds our profile on Google with 189 5-star reviews, you like slip that stuff in there. And if they're calling our office, I don't work with those buyers. Those buyers go to our team. So I prioritize working with 3 to 4 buyers at a time that are ready and motivated to purchase real estate. Any of those other buyers, they're going to be serviced really well by team members of mine.
I do have a question. You referenced the agreement together.
Yeah. I haven't finished asking you this, but that's fine. I'll go for it. Okay. Well, because here's what happens is I make sure I've answered all their questions. You said this was important to you. Here's what I said. Did I answer your questions? The goal is obviously yes. Awesome. So Rick and Scott, it sounds like I've answered all of your questions today. So the last thing that we need to do before we start looking at homes is get the paperwork out of the way. Are you comfortable signing the paperwork today and talking through what that commitment looks like?
Yeah, I'd like to see, I guess, you probably some things that we'll talk about in the paperwork. Yeah, we're looking to get things moving as quickly as possible, I'll tell you that.
Great. One of the things I also would have asked at the beginning is when they want to be in their new home. So if they would have said like 60 days, I'm going to bring up, well, gosh, we have 60 days to find your property, get it negotiated and closed. We better get to work. So I do create urgency if I can based on their timeline before I ask them if they're comfortable signing. Want to give me an objection?
No, I just have a question about the agreement that we're going to be signing. 2 questions in particular. 3, 1, how long is it? 2, how do we get out of it in case this is great and we're impressed? I mean, at least I am.
Very much
We're
so.
Very, very impressed and think that this is going to be a good fit, but that's not always perfect, when you meet somebody once. So how do we get out of that agreement as things don't go right? And then the third, obviously things have shifted. I don't know if
That's fine. I don't care. Go for
things
it.
have shifted and we've never paid a buyer's agent before because of the way the market was, but we've done a little research on that. And we're a little concerned that that might be something that we would be responsible for. Can you help us with that?
Sure, absolutely. Those are really great questions. So I'm going to take them one at a time. So number 1, how long is it? Well, I happen to bring it with me. So here it is. So there are a couple things to know. One, we're going to view the actual agreement, but there are some additional disclosures I'd like to go over with you first. I'm then going to go through agency relationship. I do everything first because even in our brokerage general disclosure or whatever our office calls that, I don't remember, but in that document, 1, I'm addressing the broker admin fee on there already. So I'm like dipping my toe in talking about them paying us. 2, there are ways during that document for you to explain your value also. So I actually mentioned to them because let's say it's been 5 years since they bought a house. They actually might not remember that a seller's disclosure statement is important and is going to have a lot of information on it. The other thing I'm going to tie on to the seller's disclosure statement is Scott and Rick, sometimes when sellers fill out a seller's disclosure statement, they miss things. Choose to believe it's not because they're intentionally trying to be dishonest, but when someone's lived in a home for 15 years, sometimes you forget that you have to turn this outlet or this light switch on in order for that one to work, right? Maybe you've experienced that in a home before. The one other thing that we do is we actually pull the permit history for you on a property because that's public record. So if the seller says the roof was replaced in 2022, there's no permit, that's going to lead me to ask more questions before we're ever going to write an offer. Because that means that maybe Uncle Bob replaced the roof at almost no cost. That might make you not as confident in the quality of the workmanship. I go through all of those things first. Then when we're getting to the contract. So obviously it's changed. I am not going to pull it up because I don't have access to it either, just like you don't, but Kevin does, and he has his class tomorrow. So plug for Kevin's class. But here's how I would go through it if we were going through current form. So Scott and Rick, page 1 is explaining that you are actually agreeing to be in a working relationship with Keller Williams Premier Realty Lake Minnetonka, and I represent them. What that means, if you remember back on the agency document, is that everyone in my office works for you. There are a lot of people that are out there working for your best interest. Secondly, it's going to ask if we have a retainer fee. We do not charge a retainer fee. So after working for over 60 days for you, if you decide that you instead are buying a home in Florida instead of Minnesota, you don't owe me anything. Next, it's going to say that our professional fee is 3%. Now you'll see below that, it says that the seller shall reduce that obligation. So if the seller, because some sellers are paying out a commission, that reduces that obligation from you. Now, Rick, what I'm hearing you say is that what if we find your dream property, they aren't paying out a commission? Well, I've experienced this for the last 13 years because I've helped buyers buy for sale by owners this entire time. It's no different. For sale by owners usually start with, I'm not paying a commission. But then what happens? They actually get a paper purchase agreement in front of them that has a number that they like, and the commission is negotiated in the contract. At the end of the day, I have been able to get most sellers to pay my commission by structuring the offer in a way that they still win and you don't have to pay the cash out of pocket. That's really what you want, right? You just don't want to have to bring the additional cash to closing.
Yes, but we also don't want to be in a disadvantage in multiple offer scenario.
Sure. So right now, when we were talking about, how much you were going to put down, you said that you were interested in putting down $300,000 on $1 million purchase. You wouldn't have to put the full $300,000 down, correct? Right. So we could just adjust your down payment to cover that commission if necessary. I know that's not ideal, but here's what I do know, Rick, is that every transaction in real estate is different. So I would encourage that we take it case by case. You're always going to know if the commission is paid out or not, because I'm going to call the agent and work with them to understand their seller situation. Really, truly use my negotiating skills, not just to get you the home that you want, but to make sure that you're not paying that commission. Now, Rick, at the end of the day, because let's say Rick kept pushing. Rick, here's the deal. At the end of the day, I'm a small business owner, and I rely on referrals and reviews for my business to grow. Now, I truly believe that I can negotiate and get you this house that you desire, get your commission paid for. If I can't, I would love to work with you on changing that amount to what we feel is mutually fair, so that you still feel you're able to purchase your property. I'm still getting paid because it's like you, I don't work for free, but I'm never going to be the one that gets in the way of you purchasing your dream home. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, it sounds great, Bethany. And so what you're talking about is if you go out Saturday and just happen to go by an open house, and we stop by that open house, we fall in love with the home, and I'll even say, hey, Bethany, can you write an offer for us on the house? Going to negotiate that 3% if seller's not willing to pay it.
There's a couple things with that scenario that I'd like to touch on. Number one, I would really prefer you don't go to open houses without me. And here's why. Listing agent or whatever agent is hosting that open house, they're representing the seller. They have zero interest in helping you. So seemingly innocent questions that they ask you, that can hurt you in negotiations. They ask you, how long have you been looking? That can show how motivated you are as a buyer. If they ask, are you currently in a lease or do you own your home? That could communicate if you have to sell a home, even if your purchase isn't contingent or not. All of those questions actually hurt me in trying to negotiate for you. And you know what, Scott? My favorite part about real estate is negotiating. And I'm assuming that your favorite part about purchasing real estate is getting a good deal. We want to make sure you don't do that. I also can't give you good advice on a property I haven't seen. So if there's a property you're interested in, instead of going to the open house, I'd love for you to let me know, and we'll go either to the open house together or we'll schedule a private showing where the seller's agent isn't trying to eavesdrop on our conversations. I didn't even handle the commission because usually we don't have to. They have it's usually something else that they're curious about. And I'll just open it up now for you guys. Like, what questions, what objections do you think they should have given me that we could handle? Oh yeah, how do you get out of the contract? So Rick, I'm just curious, when you're fearful and asking like, how do I exit a contract? Have you had a negative real estate experience before? Awesome. So that's probably why you're a little nervous about signing an agreement and wanting to know how to get out of it. Why would you want to exit a contract, do you think?
Again, the situation that came up, we didn't anticipate that we were gonna have the issues that we had with the Realtor. And when we did, and we wanted to get out, and there was no way to do that without them agreeing. So they talked to their broker ends up calling us, you know, and convincing us to stay with them. And this ended up being an unfortunate relationship. I'd rather have something where we both
Yeah.
want to work with each other. You know, in
Totally.
that case, we didn't want to work with them anymore.
I get that. And I don't want you to feel like you're handcuffed to an agreement and you don't want to work with me. To be frank, I don't want to be in the exact same situation either. Here's what I know is that the main reasons buyers are dissatisfied with their agent is usually lack of communication or feeling that the agent doesn't have their best interests in mind. Is your issue with your previous agent one of those? Great. Sorry that happened to you. And what I can tell you is our business wouldn't be at 87% of all the production we did last year to date in a down market with happy clients if we didn't provide excellent customer service, great communication, and work really hard to make your best interests are always top of mind. Now, if you feel those 3 promises that I made to you don't come to fruition, it will rip up the contract and we can cancel. It won't cost you a thing.
Okay. One of the things that we've heard is obviously with this new change in that's coming down the pipeline with commissions and whatnot, is the market is going to see more open houses, and that's why I brought up the open houses. We're going to see more houses probably than ever before hold more open houses because of this change, and going to be more buyers running around potentially unrepresented. How do you feel about that? I mean, is that something that you said you want to be there for every open house? That means open houses a lot of times are, you know, come on a Friday and they're going to be for Saturday, or, you know, so you think you'll be able to accommodate that if we want to run through an open house quick?
Well, I'm curious, Scott, why would you want to run through an open house versus just schedule a private showing?
I guess be first in to get the first opportunity to write a contract. I think
Sure. 9 times out of 10, showings are available before the open house. We would actually, if your concern is being the first in the door, and that's why it's really important that we work together so that I can see when our showings available. Because I have access through an app on the back end that I book the showings through. I can see when the availability starts, and then we can be first in the door and start to build that relationship with that agent and that seller before the open house even happens. Any other objections on the buy side? All right, let's pretend we're sellers. You're sellers. Okay. I'm gonna quick pull up a different tab here. Okay, so when I first show up to a listing appointment, I first ask to, you know, where's the dining room table? I'd love to set my bag down. Then I say, would you mind giving me a quick tour of your home? Now, I know there are 2 strategies to this. Some agents don't like to do that. I like to, and here's why. I'm going to talk about in my presentation that I can consult them on what repairs are going to increase the value of their home versus not. By them giving me a tour of the property, what I say is I go, can you please point out any updates that you have made? And then any updates you're curious if you should make prior to listing your home. I then ask for permission once we've done the tour and we're sitting back down. Can I give you a couple other ideas and things that I think would make a difference? So I am walking through either my notepad or with my phone app and just taking notes. The other piece is we always pull permit history before going to the property. How great does it look when you sit down walking through the property with the sellers and they go, well, we recently did, this bathroom remodel. And I could say, yeah, in 2019, correct? I saw that in your permit history. They now know I've taken the time to actually look at what they've invested in their property. So we're just going to pretend that we've already done the tour. Scott, Rick, I really appreciate you showing me your house and all the awesome things that you've done to it. Taken a bunch of notes that I am going to send you in an email for follow-up on the things I recommend that you do and the things that you've mentioned possibly remodeling your laundry room. Thing is, even though the laundry room might feel a bit dated, the reason I don't recommend remodeling it is depending on the person, they're either going to convert that into like a mud room because of the way it walks through, or me as someone that doesn't have kids, that would be a great space for me to add like where I'd put my dog kennels. And so it's just a space that you're not going to get a lot of value out of remodeling. Part of our marketing is to help market to a buyer potential ways they could use that space. Now, big part of home ownership, selling your home, is also the pride of relaying your home to the next buyer. So if laundry room embarrasses you and you don't want pictures of the laundry room and you don't want to sell it in its current condition, we can absolutely connect you with vendors, could do cosmetic light remodel, but I wouldn't want you to invest a bunch of cash into that space. Does that make sense? Okay, awesome. So what I'd like to do first is go through a little bit about our real estate team, how we market your home so that we can drive as many buyers to your home and ideally get you a over list price offer and potentially even in multiple offers. One thing I'd like to share with you guys really quick is that right now we're actually in a very interesting market. If we looked at just inventory in our month's supply, which is how most economic indicators determine if we are in a buyer's or seller's market, those indicators show that we're in a seller's market, which is great for you. Usually a 1 to 2 month supply. In your area, it's a 1.4 month supply properties. And what that means is if no new listings came on the market in that time frame, all of that inventory would be eaten up. Here's what's weird. Due to the interest rates being where they are right now, which as of this morning, they're at 7.5%. We're not just seeing low inventory, we're also seeing low demand. So it's really, buyers are being pickier, not moving unless they absolutely have to. It's really important we market your property at a high level. We are no longer in the market where we can just put a for sale sign in the front yard and pray that the right buyer makes an offer. So what I'd like to review with you is how we do that. So what sets our company apart is that we have a full scale team. One thing, just a sidebar, we also bring on appointments. I'm going to be going through the guide with them, but I pull out when we're talking about team, pull out pages on our team because I think people need to visualize it. Now, if you are a solo agent in the room, you still have a team. You still have office staff here that support you. You still have title closers. Like, build out your team, even if you're a single agent. Like, don't use the excuse that works for Bethany because she has a big team. Like, I did this when I was by myself. I think you always have to have examples, especially with sellers, to support what you're saying have and what you provide. Okay. Sorry. Okay. We work as a team, so we have an entire team here to support you. So whether that's from our professional photographer, videographer, we get 2D floor plans done of your property to make sure that the square footage is correct and that a buyer, instead of them saying, hey, I want to come back and measure and make sure that my bed fits in that bedroom, can look at the floor plans. The other thing that we do is a 3D tour where they can walk through your home like it's a computer game. What's interesting is your first showing is online. they are looking at your home usually more than once before they're sending it to their realtor and saying, hey, can we book a showing to see it? So we really want to make sure that we have positioned you correctly online so that we get the most feet in the door as possible. Next is going to be our track record. We have a track record for success. There are less than 5 homes in my 13-year career that I have not sold. So when we list homes, we negotiate and we sell them for you. This isn't something that we do part-time. This is a full-time career for me and every single person on our team. Transparency. One of the biggest concerns, now mind you, I would have already asked them the same question that I did at the beginning. So when I sat down, I would have said, tell me what's important to you about our meeting tonight. So I'm just going because we have like 5 minutes left. So I'm answering things that I think they would have said. Oh yeah, transparency. Most sellers, their biggest frustration is they feel like they haven't heard from their realtor enough. Have you ever experienced that before in selling a home? Okay, so not only are you going to hear from me and my office staff, but we actually have an online portal that you can log into, or you're going to receive frequent emails from on all the things that we're doing for your home. So when we say that we ordered just listed postcards for your neighborhood so that your neighbors know your home is on the market and they could pick their next neighbor, you're going to know that that's already gone out. We say that we're running an additional Facebook ad to promote your home, promote the open house that we're doing. You're going to be aware of that. So you're going to know exactly what we're doing to promote your home. And then lastly, marketing. Then I would show them a bunch of marketing pieces. So for the sake of time, we're going to pretend that I shared a lot of value with them. I will tell you, if I have done a good job on the house tour, I've already closed them. Because that is when I'm able to share with them, like, I understand real estate, I understand construction, I understand the product that I'm selling. I also usually talk to them throughout the home tour about who I believe their buyer is. Now, you need to be very careful about this because you don't want to come across discriminatory. But I will say things like to clients and say, I believe that your buyer is probably a first-time home buyer. And so here's the things that we need to pay attention to, because first-time home buyers are not going to have the capital to replace the furnace if your furnace is 30 years old. We need to promote a home warranty, right? So I carefully highlight those things without it sounding like I'm trying to discriminate against who could or couldn't be purchasing their home. Okay, for the sake of time, we're going to pretend I've done all that. We're now talking about commission. So, Rick and Scott, this is something that we've created because we know that not every home is the same and not every seller is the same. And so based on your home, you know, we just went through comparables. You agreed that you believe that your house is worth $750,000. So in looking at that, your buyer is going to be expecting your home to be impeccable when they walk through it. So we're going to want to make sure that we get some of those handyman tasks that we've talked about for you. We're going to handle coordinating all of that so we can take that off your plate. We're going to get that 3D virtual tour done because it actually is possible based on the area you live in. Buyer might be an out-of-state buyer. So we want them to be able to feel like they could tour your home even if they're not in Minnesota. Floor plans we've discussed. We do a video reel that gets posted to YouTube and also to Instagram and Facebook. We recently actually sold the house on Lake Sarah because of the YouTube video that we uploaded. So video does work, and it's where people do see your home. And then on this, you'll notice of the 6.5%, because I always go there, unless it's like house that I don't think they need all of that, which I am very, just to be clear, they're a seller that is struggling and they're in a lower price point. I don't believe they need the video to sell their house. They just need to price it correctly, and I'm trying to do right by them. So I will say, I actually don't believe your house needs this package. I think you would be just fine with the 6%. In this case, I really do think as $750 home, we should be doing all of this additional marketing. So Rick and Scott, have you heard about the National Commission lawsuit? Okay, great. Do you have any thoughts or questions on it?
Yeah, I just heard it said, the buyers are gonna have to, pay their agent themselves.
Yeah, it's really interesting because the whole lawsuit is actually about where sellers felt that they weren't communicated that commission is negotiable. Now, here's the thing, commission has actually always been negotiable, but these sellers felt that they didn't understand that. So you could today decide that you don't want to pay out a buyer's broker compensation. What I would love to share with you is that I believe we would be pigeonholing you and eliminating an entire section of the buyer pool by saying that you're not interested in paying that commission. Now, when we go through this net sheet and we talk through the expenses, I'm going to quickly try to do this from memory. So on our net sheet, I would have gone, we have our own, it's an Excel spreadsheet. So I would say, all right, so these top fees here, these are going to be your title fees and your taxes. State deed tax, you're going to pay $3.4 on every $1,000. And you're going to pay your title fees. Then you're going to pay a wiring proceeds fee. Then you're going to pay your mortgage payoff. And you're going to pay the recording fee for the mortgage payoff. Then you're going to pay the $5 conservation fee, which I call the Save the Ducks fee. Now we're going to go to commission. Commission is this color. Keller Williams Premier Realty Lake Minnetonka would collect 3.8%. Whichever agent brings the buyer would collect 2.7%. And then we have a broker admin commission of $699. Those are your commissions. And below, because you are a part of the whatever association, we actually need to order association documents. That's roughly going to be between $300 and $400 in your association. I'm going to go through all of these fees. Now, you guys said that your mortgage payoff, which I would have already gotten from them before I showed up to the appointment, said that your mortgage payoff was X amount, and you also said that you have a home equity line of credit for $50,000. So I've factored those in. So in looking at this bottom amount, does this look like what you expected to walk away with? Awesome. So this is with us doing that buyer payout. Now, I believe that buyers are going to pay more in what they offer you because buyers' pain point is they don't usually have all the cash to bring to the table. But if they can finance their buyer commission into the transaction, and how they do that is by you doing that payout, you don't really care if they offer you $750 with a payout versus $720 with no payout. At the end of the day, it looks almost the same to you, correct? Awesome. So that's how we're going to help them finance it into the transaction. And we're going to be able to market that and open your home up to more buyers by advertising that we are doing that payout.
What I see in your consultation, your book there, your fee is, looks like around that 3.5%, 4%. So if you're doing open houses that, we haven't talked about how many open houses you're gonna be doing, and buyer comes in with no representation, I only have to pay the 3.5%. Is that correct?
No, that's a really great question. So first of all, you asked about open houses. So with open houses, I believe open houses are most effective either the first time we go on the market, but we don't want to do too many of them. It's like a sale at Kohl's. If they're happening every day, there's no urgency created. So what we do is we strategically list your home on Thursday as active. We don't allow showings until Friday, and then we host an open house Friday evening. What that does is that pushes the buyers actually be nervous and book their showings on Friday because they want to get in before the open house. Because to you, it really doesn't matter if I do 1 open house or 5 open houses. You just want to make sure that your home is exposed, urgency is created, and you get offers in a timely manner, correct?
Yeah, but I see, that's what we're talking about, the commission difference. Obviously, we net more, and what I see the way your brochure says, if the buyer doesn't have an agent.
No, because we would then represent them in the transaction as well.
So you represent both sides then?
Yeah.
How does that work for me for having the best negotiating if you're representing both sides?
Here's the great thing is I don't do the open houses myself because I don't want to be put in that position. So the agents on my team host those open houses. You've never talked to them. You don't know, they don't know your motivation. They don't know your bottom line. They don't know your mortgage payoff amount. They don't have access to any of that information. They are going to be available to answer questions to the buyer. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, most of the time, really good negotiating is about eliminating emotion from a transaction and helping you get what you want. So if we can help manage the emotion and the expectations of the other party, wouldn't that help you?
Yeah, I can see where that could be beneficial, but back up a little bit. You said, so you're not necessarily, so doing our open houses, you're having some of your team that's potentially not been in our house before.
They're
and they're
all
gonna
going
host
to
an open
be,
house?
good question. On Tuesdays, our team reviews all of our active listings and we talk through our inventory to make sure everyone is educated. Because here's the thing, when you hire me, you don't just hire me, you hire our entire team. So as our team is making phone calls every day, and as we're looking through our contact management system, which has 9,200 people in it, our contact management system actually tells us what hundreds of people are set up on a search that fits the criteria of your home. And so my agents are calling those people, inviting them to the open house, asking them if they want a private showing. So it doesn't work to the detriment of you. It's actually sit in a better position where I am not communicating directly with that buyer. They are educated on your home and they can manage the expectations and emotions of that buyer.
So when you say
Bring it back to the commission.
yeah, so when you say you represent the buyer, but what if the buyer comes in and doesn't want representation because they're feeling they're trying to get themselves out of paying a commission or out of paying for a commission?
Here's the thing, Scott, that's a really great question. If a buyer comes in and they want to represent themselves, I promise you, I am doing double the work and we're going to collect the full commission. Here's the thing, I've literally never had anyone push me on that.
I would agree with her 100% until tomorrow. So
It's actually
I would
August 17th.
well, whatever date this is happening, I would agree with her that you're right. It's not been an issue, but I believe it's definitely going to become bigger. And I won't say it's not been an issue because I walked away from a $50,000 commission check one time to prove a point on that issue. I had somebody who tried to skate in a buyer on the backside after I let him list the house for free. He thought he was going to come back. So I walked away from the commission because he told me he was repping the buyer. And I said, you don't procure cause. And he took the buyer across the street and bought something else. Oh, it has happened in the past, and I believe it's going to happen in the future. So yes, I agree with you. You are doing more work because we've both been part of that where an unrepresented buyer is a pain in the ass. I totally agree with you there. And I think there's going to be a period of time where we're going to be strong on how that's going to happen and how we're going to explain how much more work we go through. Mrs. Jones, and honestly, do you want an unrepresented buyer to buy your home? Because that buyer doesn't necessarily have to play by the rules. They may get into the 10th hour and say, you know what, I'm walking away from this deal. And yeah, you could try to take them to court, but that's all, that's tying up your house from insult somebody else. So,
And quickly here, we're behind.
Mm.
The first responsibility of hers to us is that she represents us.
Mhm.
That's the agreement. She represents us. She doesn't represent the buyer when we sign the agreement. She represents us. So in the event a buyer comes in unrepresented and they want to get a portion of that commission or worked into the deal, if that's best for the seller, it is best for your seller. So that's something that I would encourage you to just leave open, because if there's a situation that ends up being best for the seller, that needs to be taken into consideration.
Well, that's where if I really had a seller, again, I've never had a seller do that. If I did, how I would honestly handle it is I would say, Scott, really this is important to you. Whatever is important to you is important to me. I really don't think this situation is going to happen. And every deal in real estate is different. But would it be fair if we sign the agreement today at the current terms that we've discussed with the commission? And if this situation does happen, we can discuss it when we are reviewing that buyer's offer, because that will be part of the transaction. It's actually probably how I would handle it. I do not, I very quickly try get sellers back to the whole reason we're meeting and their motivation, why I'm the best to market their home, negotiate the sale. And what I will tell you is you have to create confidence. And sometimes it looks like getting your butt kicked, because I've had that happen too. I've felt like an idiot in front of a seller. But that confidence that you create, the more confident you communicate this to sellers. Like if I have dealt with, the reason I wanted these two here is because I knew they weren't going to be like easy on me. And so I have dealt with strong, high D personality sellers that it's like, well, no, I want this. Okay, awesome. And I use exactly what I just said. God, it sounds like this is really important to you. And what's important to you is important to me. I really don't think this situation is going to happen. And I use that tone and I say it quickly because I want to take control back in the conversation. Mirroring and matching your clients is the most important thing, I think, actually overall, because if I use that same tone with someone that is not like Scott, like they would be like, this girl's a B word, right? So I'm just trying to mirror his energy. At the end of the day, if you're sitting across the table from a high D, guess what? They want you to be a confident, strong negotiator, and how you negotiate for yourself is how you will negotiate for them. And so if you are fearful of asking them for what you want, know that that's actually what they want to hear from you. They don't want me to put my tail between my legs and be like, okay, fine, we'll do that. They actually don't. I mean, they kind of do because their ego will get stroked by that, but what he actually wants is for me to be like, no, this is how we're going to handle it. And I'm the professional and I do this every day.
I think everything, I mean, Bethany, this book is amazing. Obviously, she's done a phenomenal job of being a professional real estate agent in this industry. I've already talked about this with some other my agents, and the 6% that our professional fee, and I love that word, professional fee, not commission. Our professional fee is 6% to handle this transaction. But if I was going to change any one thing in this whole thing, and there's not, probably the only thing is the professional fee of 6%, wouldn't have that split right there. My professional fee is 6%. And if the buyer comes with an agent, I will share my professional fee because that professional agent is going to help me handle this transaction versus having a buyer come in that's unrepresented that I've got to basically know the whole thing then. And that's why I charge 6% because I'm handling the whole thing. But if a professional agent comes in, present that buyer, they're helping me handle this transaction, I will pay a portion of my commission because of their having a professional agent on the other side of this. I know the transaction is going to go more smooth.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. We're on time. I'm happy to continue to answer questions, but if you need to go, it is past the hour. Other thing is, I'm going to push back on what Scott just said because Scott does a lot of new construction. And so he's not representing traditional buyers and sellers every day. And I don't mean that with any disrespect. I actually believe that by the entire lawsuit happened, ironically, to create transparency. Like that, if you really think about it, that is why the lawsuit happened, is the whole thing was we need to have transparency. What's BS about it is now by not having it on the MLS, it actually reduces transparency, but that's a whole different conversation. By me putting on that sheet, and I stress it when I am going through my listing contract, I am actually validating where that money is going, because then the seller understands that I'm not rolling around in a bathtub of 6% in commission. It is, I am doing this in this payout. Now, if a buyer happens to come into my open house and is unrepresented, okay, yeah, we can talk about that. Chances are it's not going to happen. Like seriously, of the probably 140 transactions our team will close this year, probably dual agency, maybe 2. Like it is not that big of a deal. So if someone's fixated on something, help them get back to what's most important.
100% right on going to open houses. A very, very few unrepresented open houses business. Should I do a lot of open houses? I have a substantial amount of represented buyers because open houses that's what Jess got. Represent. We did open house. Oh, it's good. If you go to open houses, you don't
It's also gonna happen though with internet leads. We got an internet lead. Jordan on our team did asked the correct questions. Jordan said, "Do you have an agent representing you? Have you signed an agreement?" No, I haven't. Jordan showed the listing, which is his listing. But you know, all of a sudden this agent from another brokerage shows up to write the purchase agreement. Called Kevin yesterday. I said, "Here's what the buyer said to us. I would like us to call the buyer directly because I don't believe there is a contract." And what do you know? We call the buyer back and say, "Your agent didn't say this, but our self conversation was this agent doesn't know what he's doing because he didn't." And long story short, Jordan's now working with the buyer too. It's going to happen not just on open houses, it's going to happen with agents that don't know how to communicate their value and aren't comfortable pushing to get a buyer rep signed. Meeting with long-term clients of mine tomorrow night, and I am not showing them a house until they sign that document. If they won't sign that document, then they need to sign a one-time showing agreement. It is not that hard. And all you have to do is communicate your value up front and say, "I answered your questions. Do you have any additional questions that would cause you not to feel that I am the agent for you to purchase your next home with?" Like, be that direct. And they will use, I've never had someone say, "No."
I totally agree with Bethany.
Thank you. Did this for commission. Everyone's like, "Put permits." Right. I truly believe it's going to be an opportunity to make more money.